Are you ready to rock?
Yeah.
I hope so, because we finally have a guest in the studio once again.
Miracles really do happen!
This basketball-playing, trail-running high school band teacher is ready to show you what is up. Not just in life, but also in the weight room. I'm sure there are other band teachers who lift weights, just not as much as today's guest, Dan Cooper. Here is your host, Bubba Seaman.
All right, we are back. This is going to be part 2 with Dan Cooper. We're going to get into the good stuff, the segments. You're going to get to know a little bit more about him. And like I said, I have this theory that everybody is interesting. It doesn't matter. You don't have to be special. This is real people talking about real life, and it should be interesting. So, but before we get started today, we're getting closer and closer to Thanksgiving, Christmas. You know what that means. Yes, it's Operation Christmas Child. Not every kid in the world gets to celebrate Christmas, though. Operation Christmas Child's become a tradition at my church to get involved and pack these shoe boxes for kids all over the world, mostly third world countries that they don't get anything at Christmas time. But then I've noticed in recent years, families that don't even come to our church, but maybe their kids come to our Awana Club on Wednesday nights, they want to get involved. They want to pack a box for as a family, or they want to donate items for us to pack and ship off. So it's really something good to be a part of around Christmas time. So Operation Christmas Child, if you don't know, they deliver great joy and good news of Jesus Christ to children in need all around the world through these gift-filled shoe boxes. Each box is packed full of quality toys, could be school supplies or even personal care items. That becomes an actual expression of God's immense love for that kid through that shoe box. For many, it's their first gift they've ever got. It's hard for us to imagine a kid who might be excited to get a tiny rubber ball or a pair of sunglasses or a toothbrush, something like that. And these boxes, we pack them up and they're delivered by local church partners. These shoebox gifts provide an opportunity to present the gospel, the good news of Jesus Christ, to these boys and girls in a clear, child-friendly way. It's not just these toys that go to them. The gospel's included with every single shoebox. And since 1993, over 209 million boys and girls in more than 170 countries and territories have experienced God's love through the power of a simple shoebox gift from Operation Christmas Child. Samaritan's Purse works with local churches, just like ours, and ministry partners to deliver these gifts and share the life-changing good news of Jesus Christ. There's information on their website on how to pack a shoebox. Start with an average size cardboard or plastic shoebox. If you want to wrap it, go ahead. If you want to get a little plastic tote type thing with a lid on it, you can do that. Samaritan's Purse has colorful cardboard shoe boxes or plastic ones for you to get. They hold up really well. You'll need to get a label for it because you can choose whether you want to, what age group you want to pack a box for, if you want it to be for a boy or girl, and then you fill it with, medium to large gifts. It could be a deflated soccer ball with a pump. It could be stuffed animals, maybe a picture of yourself and a note with your return address. Maybe they'd send you a letter sometime when they get older. I don't know. School supplies are a good one. But definitely put that personal note in there and then pray over your shoebox. Okay? Pray that family that gets that shoebox, that kid, the family of the kid, would be receptive to the gospel. And that the pastor of the church who delivers your shoebox gift, pray for them and pray for that entire community to be transformed by the gospel of Jesus. So if you want to be a part of that, it only costs $10 per shoebox to deliver. There's drop-off locations. Just go to their website. You get all the information. If you need to know more or you want to be a part of our church's effort in doing that, we're not packing shoeboxes till November 19th. So just reach out to me anytime. whatisuppodcast@gmail.com, and we can get you involved for sure. Something good to be a part of. Okay, Dan, we got through all the tough stuff, man. I guarantee you your testimony encouraged some people. So now we're going to get into kind of some fun stuff. We're going to let people peek behind the curtain and see what Dan Cooper's all about. So buckle your seatbelts, guys. We're going to start with the first segment, Pastor Tommy's segment. This is named after my former pastor. Guy had a big impact on me. He always said, when you get to heaven, and yes, like I've said before, you can know you're going to heaven. You can be there. If there is a theater room in heaven where you can sit down and watch any event recorded in the Bible, what would it be?
All right, so this is way tough, right? Because, there's so many, but I'm so geeked out about this. It has to be creation.
Okay.
And it can't just be like watching it, because it might just be like, oh, blip, and then there's a big flashlight, and then everything's there. It's got to be like the PBS documentary series on creation.
Okay.
Of like, okay, so you say, let there be light, and then what happened? And then I want Morgan Freeman or whatever the heavenly version of Morgan Freeman to describe in that instant this much power happened, and here's what happened, all the planets were formed and all the everything like this. And then when it comes to that's the cosmos, there's so many things that are just so incredibly fascinating about the size of that's a mind blowing how big the universe is, and that God created this.
Yeah.
So he's holding the universe, even he had to be this, he had to create size, he had to create time, all these things that he is bigger than. But then on top of that, there's sometimes that you look around in nature and there's something God, how did you just created this? Okay. And what I mean, not created, oh, I made a spider, boom, a spider.
Yeah.
But he dreamt it up. Right? He had the creative mind to be you know what? Something should have something sticky come out of its butt, and it makes really pretty webs. You're what? Have you ever thought about how a leaf takes sunlight and what we exhale, and that's its food?
Yeah.
That's so incredible. The way that everything works. Oh my gosh. If there could just be this, the documentary series on hey, oh, your mind's going to be blown when you see this, that, sometimes I just get on kicks of how incredible.
Yeah.
How incredible is it that you see a spider making a web and you're no lab of man-made kind can recreate what a spider just does. Is some certain mix of chemicals and it makes a web. We can't reproduce it.
Yeah, and they say that's when you break the web of a spider down or whatever they call it, that is they measure that stuff in tensillary strength, I think.
Yeah.
That based on volume is the strongest. It's stronger than it,
Right. Any other substance
rope
we're aware of.
Concrete. It's actually, and I was like, how can that be? Yeah, I was working with a kid Wednesday night at Awana, and he asked me that question. He goes, before you become a Christian, does God give you a sign, or do you kind of accept God and then he gives you signs? And I was like, oh, kid, I got the verse for you, and I couldn't remember the verse reference, and I still can't, but I was like, there's a verse in the Bible that tells you when you look around at creation, we are all without excuse.
Oh yeah, it's Romans 1. Right?
Romans 1.
It's in Romans 1.
Okay. And I told him, I was like, dude, have you ever seen anything explode? And he goes, yeah. He kind of had this guilty look on his face first, and he's like, yeah? He had blown some stuff up. And I was like, when it was done, was it in any kind of order or, anything? And he goes, no, it was in pieces. And I go, yeah. So when this world started in creation, if you think it just started by random chance of some explosion and it didn't have a creator, how on earth do you see the sheer depths of the volume and the magnificence of the way? And I was I think I went way deeper than he wanted to, but I was talking about how the earth is spinning and the seasons and the stuff we breathe and all the animals and then us humans and then just the ecosystems and just our intelligence and all this stuff. And I went so deep. I was like, that's your sign, dude. We did not just crawl out of salt water someday and be able to do all this. There is a designer. And just in case he, had some atheist tendencies or something, I have friends that are atheists. We all get along. This is the What Is Up podcast. We can be different. That's okay. But even famous atheists like Charles Darwin, he's made comments where he said, the human eye makes him shudder. The complexity of the way the human eye works, or the feather of a peacock. He says, I can't get around the complexity of it as an atheist. and at least he's being honest.
Right.
And a lot of people don't know that. That's kind of the start of finding truth, is when you can admit, there's holes in what you're thinking. So that's why I tell people it's always good to search for truth. You can doubt all you want. As long as you're searching for truth, you can get there. So But creation is definitely a good one there. All right. Stop complaining and do something segment. If every teenager in America was in your youth group, what would your message be to them?
Okay, so I teach high school teenagers, right? So I have a bunch in my house right now, and I would think on first instinct, like your first impulse would be a little bit of like shape up, do better. We have this like nonstop everywhere you go. Nobody wants to take ownership for anything, right?
Okay.
So we call it like blame, complain, or deny. But kids might call it gaslighting, right? Of like, hey, don't do that. Oh, I didn't do that. I just saw you. No, you didn't see me. Or like, oh, you got in trouble at school today. Well, it's not my fault because you see this other kid was da-da-da. Like, of course it's your fault. You were the ones that, that like it would want to be that, right? Like, own your actions.
Yeah, take ownership.
Admit that you have done something wrong or that you have said something wrong once ever in your life, right? But like, okay, now first of all, teenagers aren't going to hear that. They're going to be like, whatever, old man, like, what do you know what you're talking about? You weren't there. You don't know what it's like to be 16. Like, okay, but what I would really do though is I would want them to hear like where their identity comes from.
Okay.
I would want them to know that like their worth, their value is not from style, their followers, the number of likes, the number of whatevers. It's not their value doesn't come from anything of what their friends say, of what anyone else says, of what they're good at, of whether they're going to, be in the NBA or be the next Taylor Swift or whatever, but their value comes from Christ. And so many kids, they seek that kind of like, they have this like lost sense of identity.
Yep.
It's so funny that you were just talking about Ephesians 2, because like right after, it was like you've been saved by grace through faith. It's not a work of your own, but it's a gift of God.
Yeah.
And right after that is like one of my favorite verses. And this is actually the first high school Bible study we ever did. Like I remember one kid, she's not a kid anymore. She's got out of college, but Bailey Duncan. Okay. She was in our Bible study and she was reading this verse 10 and she was like, my translation says, for we are his masterpieces.
Ooh, yeah.
Created, like for good deeds.
For good works.
We are his masterpiece. And she was like, that's pretty incredible. You ever think about things that you want to change about yourself or things that you wish were different about yourself? How dare you go to this wonderful creator? He created the entire universe. He dreamt up photosynthesis and like made it so that like your eyes, like the millions of receptors in your eyes, he made you and calls you his masterpiece. Yeah. He's like, it's perfect. Masterpiece. And you're going to like wish part of that away.
Yeah. Like
to know that like your creator in heaven, God loves you so much more than any other thing will give you satisfaction.
Yeah. Yeah.
That I'd want kids to know in teenagers all around the world to know their value comes because of not anything that they've done, but because of who has given them value.
Man, that's a good one. That is nailed it right there for sure. Okay. Movie/book review. Any recent or favorite movie book you want to share?
Yeah, Bubba. So we started like doing some like reading nonfiction. I know it's kind of boring, sorry, but I'm normally a fiction reader. But maybe about a year ago now, I read this book Breath by James Nestor.
Okay,
and I have rarely read books where I'm like, oh my gosh, this is life-changing. This is incredible. And this book is incredible. It just talks about really is like they say like the lost art of breathing. But now you're thinking like, okay, breathing, like
I'm
what
about to
what
fall
is there?
asleep.
Yeah,
I'm about
yeah.
to fall asleep.
And he's like he goes through all these like case studies of like people who like it's essentially like from breathing through your nose. Like I mean there's like all sorts of different like techniques that he's gone into, but like he had examples of one guy who's a choir director, okay, and he like was teaching his choir how to exhale properly or something, and then discovered that he can cure emphysema through this breathing technique. And I mean, this is like in the 1920s or something. And so he was like going to all these clinics and being like, all these like old people who are like, hey, we're on deathbed. You know, I can't walk up and down the hall because my lungs. And he'd be like, he'd work with them and like they're like cured. So they go from like totally debilitated to cured just because they've learned how to like exhale. It like talks about like how your body needs more CO2, like how you know, there's this like outbreak of like people needing dental procedures. Like I never heard of people needing to have teeth removed, like kids, you know, they're like, oh, your teeth are too big for your mouth. Like, I mean, my kids went through that whole thing where there's like, oh, you need braces, you got to pull some teeth. Well, that's all, he says it's all linked to being a mouth breather. And like, it was like, hey, you know, like you used to be like native mothers would hold their babies' mouths shut so they would have to breathe through their nose. Because like the nose, you know, like filters air. I mean, it's just so incredible. It was so fascinating. I know you're like snoozeville.
How long is the book?
But it's like maybe 150 pages.
I was going to say, it couldn't be too long.
It is a short read, and it is fascinating. It is so good. I read it, and then I was like, went to my wife, babe, you got to read this book. She read it. She was like, this is incredible. I can't believe it. And then each of my kids read it. And the kids are like, I mean, for a teenager, for a 12-year-old, for an 11-year-old to be like, what, did you know this? And I'm like, yeah, I read the book. It's incredible, isn't it? He's like, oh, I had no idea. I mean, like all of them read it. All of it.
That's how learning's supposed to work,
yeah,
kids.
It was awesome. It was awesome. And then I started mouth taping. You know, he like goes like, have you seen the commercials for people who like tape their mouth shut at night so that they have to breathe through their nose? Oh my gosh, it like cures snoring. Like, it's so crazy. Yeah.
What the heck?
I mean, a must read. Breath by James Nestor.
And who recommended it? How did you come across a book like that?
Oh my gosh. It was like on TikTok or Instagram. Some guy who's like, every man must read these 5 books. And it was like David Goggins' book, Can't Hurt Me. And I mean, that was a good read. And Breath was one. And then a few other, I don't know if they're like self-help but kind of like inspiring of like, hey, look what a man can attain to. And that was on the list. So I was just kind of bought them all on Amazon. And
Breath
by James Nestor. Yeah.
Don't judge a book by your cover, apparently.
Oh my gosh. I own it and you can borrow it if you want it.
Okay. All right. Job rundown. As quick as you can, as far back as you can till now. Just nail the jobs.
First job, I was a farmhand, right? Helping scoop out calf hutches and, clean out, scoop manure, bale hay, like around the farm as a kid.
Yeah.
Then I started detasseling. That's a great 14-year-old job.
Yeah.
Did that for many years. Got a job bagging groceries at Fairway and stocking shelves. And then I turned into the produce man at Fairway. So that's a great skill.
How old were you when you were bagging groceries?
16 through like maybe 20.
Okay.
And then at part of the time, I mentioned in the previous episode, we were pretty poor. So when I found out I could work and you could make some money, all of a sudden I was like, oh my gosh, I'm working all the time. So I doubled up. I had 2 part-time jobs. I made pizzas at Casey's.
Wow.
And I would go to Fairway. I'd work like the Saturday 5 to 5 a.m. unload trucks and all day long. And then at 5 o'clock I'd get off there and go over to Casey's and make pizza all night. But the 2 things that were great, man, I was like just putting away the cash, right? Like just in that grind. And when you're working that much, there is no time to spend it. So like it kind of worked both ways. Like I was able to like do that most of the summers, and then I didn't have to work much during the school year because I mean I had
a healthy savings.
Yeah, a ton of savings. Okay, then after that I got a job at a Hardee's in college. It was awful, but I did use it to feed most of my college friends. You know, you accidentally slice too many roast beef sandwiches or whatever at the end of the night. You just take them home. And then after the summer, after I graduated from college and before I started teaching, teachers, you don't get paid, right? So I had a job, but I didn't start till August. And here it was June, and I'm a college kid, no money. So I got a job at the then IBP, which is like Tyson Food, working on the line. Oh! That was a great job to remind me that I wanted to teach.
You wanted a white collar.
It was like, yeah. And here's the worst thing about that job. I hated it every day. I was like, I hate this job so bad. But there are people there from like, there was like European immigrants and Hispanic immigrants, and I swear almost every day a chant would go up, USA, USA.
Oh yeah.
And like it was like joyous.
Yeah.
I was like, what? This is fake. They're not happy about this. No, they were so happy that they had jobs, that they lived in the United States.
Yep.
And here I was going like, I'd do anything to get out of this job. It was a good gut check of like, man, just
we're
be thankful
spoiled
for what you got. Exactly.
We're spoiled. Yeah.
Exactly. And then I started teaching, and I've been at Denver ever since then. But along with that, I got back into DTAS. The football coach ran a crew, and he found out I had detasseled for years. And so he was like, you got to help me. We're going to train up the kids. We're going to, oh my gosh, I did that for like 15 summers. Just this last summer is the first summer I didn't do it.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I like to think I'm retired from it, but
Man.
who knows? It's kind of a fun, you get time, when my oldest daughter was out in the cornfield, like you just get to spend a lot of time with your kids. And then I do some bus driving on the side.
Okay.
For the school. They needed it. I had a CDL. And I actually even drove a party bus, but just one time, and that's probably like a never again. It's not.
It's not a Christian environment,
I
probably.
just not really enjoy that at all.
Okay, you brought it up. I got to ask. I know bus drivers are hard to come by. I go to church with a couple. I think I'd love to do it. I'd love to have that just clean palette to work on and try and make a difference. But I have people tell me there's a reason there's a shortage. Bubba, they'll eat you alive. How do you?
Well, you just got to know how to say no, right?
Okay.
I mean, well, and now here's the difference. I don't drive bus routes like picking up the kids in the morning and dropping off at school. I signed up at school to drive bus because for my kids' athletic events.
Oh,
and so
okay.
I'll drive the evening stuff, and it just turned into, I drove bus for detasseling for many, many years.
Mm-hmm.
And so once you get comfortable, backing a bus down a cornfield and through a ravine and around porta potties and everything, all of a sudden, like parking in a parking lot, it's like, it's not a big deal.
Do that.
Yeah. And when you're like, wow, how could you operate that big thing? You kind of learn like other cars will get out of the way. Like nobody wants to hit a school bus. Like it's on them. Like, but I mean, yes, yeah, you do have to check the road rage and everything. 'Cause like there's not a lot you can do about it. But, the kids, the high school, middle school kids, they're pretty great. And I love it. You get to see behind the scenes. And, I get to see, like, how the coaches talk to their team and interact. It really just makes me really happy that, like, of how many great coaches we have.
Yeah.
Because there's sometimes you're like, man, JV, whatever, girls basketball. And then you see the way that coach, like, treats the team and what they're asking out of their team. And you're like, this is pretty incredible.
Yeah.
And you get to spend extra time with your kids. And I'm already going to the game. So, there'd be times where other adults, parents are like, hey, how'd you get here so fast? I'm like, drove the bus. I'm even getting paid to sit in the bleachers, you know, like.
And I didn't pay to get in.
Exactly.
I'm getting paid.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, most of the time you break even by the time you like eat dinner in a concession stand, and then you got to, feed the kids and whatever. But hey, it doesn't cost you money, and you're going to go anyway. So,
yeah.
And it really came about, like, I trust myself driving more than I trust, like other people, like, I know I'm not, like, as far as it's in my power, I'm not wrecking this bus. I'm not falling asleep. I'm not. Yeah. So I mean, I totally encourage it. I think the biggest deterrent though is the pays. It's not really, nobody's making a living driving a bus. That's the hard part. Like the hours are weird, and it just doesn't really pay that good. But
I heard the reason they're losing a lot of bus drivers, at least in certain schools, is the kids, the discipline. Is a struggle, but then when the bus driver wants to, say no, the school hasn't been backing up the bus driver. And so I know at least one for sure that has left just because of that and said, well, I can handle the problems. And if I progress to the next step and the kid needs some disciplinary action, the school backs down for whatever reason. And they say, okay, I'm out. So a couple of these retired bus drivers say, okay, I guess you don't want me because
yeah, that's the tough spot to be in, right?
But those are the morning and the afternoon routes and all that.
And when you're like trying to discipline a kid, and you're like, hey, you're gonna have to find a different way to school, to get to school. Like, and it's on the parents, and I could see how the school would be like, no, we have to provide a way for them to get to school, and.
But once that kid figures out, then there's really no consequences.
Yeah,
I mean, give them detention, do something. I know.
Right. It is a powerful thing. Some of our admin at Denver will encourage people like, hey, you should just ride the bus, go on a bus route and just see. It's a whole different world.
Yeah.
A whole different world out there. It's crazy. Well, I've always known like kids on the bus, like that's where most of them learn all the naughty stuff. Right?
Oh yeah.
It's not in there. It's like from the bus ride.
And the ones who know the naughty stuff got it from their older brother, sister,
or you got older
cousins.
siblings like sitting in the back of the bus teaching everybody.
Yeah, that's your education right there.
Right?
All right. This is a new one. Never before seen or heard on the What Is Up podcast. Gen Z slang. I got to thank Bridget and Timothy for giving me the idea for this one. So I'm going to give you a few words, and you got to tell me if you know what they mean. This is supposedly words kids are using today. We'll see if you... What do I got? 1, 2, 3...
Oh, you got some missing here. I think I got all those teens in my house. I've been picking up some, but there's some new stuff I have no clue what
Oh,
this
you
stuff
don't?
is.
Okay,
Some of
Slay.
these are. Slay's like, like you'd be like, hey, go girl. Like, I mean, it's kind of like it used to be like Slay Queen or something like that. It's like that means really you're really doing great.
You did really good.
Yeah, hey, you're doing good.
All right, 1 for 1. 8.
8 is like if like somebody's like really doing really good at something. Like,
Yeah.
Oh man, they ate. It's like a lot of times I think it's like from you see NFL players who like hold the bowl up to their mouth like
Ezekiel
they're
Elliott.
eating. Yeah. Like so he's eating like, hey man, big dog's got to eat. That kind of it's like kind of like that.
Right. Okay. Now here's the new ones. Girly pop.
Yeah, girly pop. I got nothing on this. I can only imagine that it's like a reference about music that is like pop music that's like really sissy that like only a guy would like. But I don't think that's it.
Nope, that makes too much sense. That's where we would go. I'm kind of drawing a blank. Timothy, I just asked him last night. Give me a refresher. I think 8 and girly pop go together. I think he said it's kind of like another way of instead of just saying like you killed it, it's like you killed it, bro, kind of thing.
So you say,
but I don't think you're saying it to a dude. I think I'm probably wrong, but I'm pretty sure he said they kind of go together. It's just a more way to emphasize. You did good.
You did well.
Yeah. Wow. We're old. Okay. Moving on to the next one. Giat or gat.
Yeah, giat. I think giat. I feel like that refers to somebody with a really attractive backside.
Oh my gosh, you got it.
I think that's what. Like it's like the new thick. You should be like,
that's
ooh,
it.
She thick. And
that
then you're
is
like,
it.
Yes.
Denver Public Schools finest, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, I'll be honest. It's because of we got 14s in our house, and it's just nonstop. You'd be like, what did they just say? And then you go Google Translate.
Yeah.
Or whatever. You gotta. There's so much stuff I have to look at.
They told me. They said I came home one day and they said, "Dad, tell us if you know what this means." If we said, "Mom has the gat or giat," and I was like, "Are you?" I'm assuming you're talking about her butt. I don't know. And they said yes. So okay, next awful. One. Cooked.
All I got is like it's done. Cooked. Like it's cooked. Like I'm tired. I'm gassed. I'm tired. But I don't think that's right.
Yeah, that's kind of how we would use it, isn't it? Cooked. I think I could be wrong again. I just asked him last night. I should have wrote down the definitions, but I think cooked means like Russell Wilson, let Russ cook kind of thing. Like if you cook, that means it's kind of the same as ate, I guess.
Gotcha.
But like you nailed it. You did good or whatever.
Work that in. To conversations.
Well, ask your kids if that's correct first.
Right.
But some of these we know. But
what I prefer to do is use them inappropriately and out of context, and then they'll do the like eye roll, like gross, and then you're like, well, it's how you talk.
Or what about when you use one correctly, but then they let you know, we don't use that one anymore. Yeah. What was the other one I tried to say the other day? And they're like, yeah, that's kind of out
bussin'.
now. Oh yeah, that's way old. That's way old. Yeah, that's I don't think not in our school district.
Riz?
We're not using that.
Is that one?
That's
Riz?
new. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it.
Oh yeah, one of the. I don't want to rat anybody out, but one of the teens went to a dance, kissed a girl, and so we were like, "Man, you got some Riz," and he was like, "That's right, yeah." Okay, so sorry, I'm not saying names, but you know who you are if you're listening out there. Man.
Oh wow. Okay. How about the last one? No cap.
No cap means it's the truth.
Yes.
Yeah. So cap is a lie. You're like, that's cap. That's cap, bro. You'd be like,
where does this come from? Where do they get that?
I knew. I don't know. I'm sure it has some.
That's absolutely right.
Reference there somewhere.
Wow. Okay.
That's pretty good.
Man, you did good.
I appreciate
you went through those.
I missed a couple of them. Girly pop and cooked. I don't know.
Yeah. All right. So this is the getting to know you segment. These are rapid fire questions. We try not to spend a lot of time because there's a lot of questions. And I'll try not to throw in a bunch of my boring commentary. If you could meet anyone in the world or anyone in history, who would it be?
Okay, in the world right now, it'd probably be Elon Musk. I just want to be like, yo, what's up with you guy? Okay,
Excellent.
in history, I'd have to go either Jesus or one of the disciples and just be like, this would be pretty cool to talk to this guy.
Very good. All right, if you had $1 million.
Okay, first of all, it'd have to be more than 1 million, more like 100 million, or really kind of wealthy. I would want to give money away so that I could have it named after me, but in ridiculous ways, because I think it'd be hilarious. Just imagine, okay, Denver needs a new football field, and I'd be like, okay, that's fine. Our head coach named Rhett Barrett. Okay, I'd be like, I'll give you $10 million to redo this field, best stadium in all of the United States, but you have to name it like Rhett Barrett Smells Like Poo. You'd have to name it Rhett Barrett Smells Like Poo Field, and watch them squirm just to be like, wait, what? Oh, we're not naming it that. And be like, it's $10 million. I think it'd be hilarious to watch them. And then can you just imagine like coming over to a game at Denver and be like, welcome to Rhett Barrett Smells Like Poo Field. Rhett, I love you, buddy.
Yeah.
He's wonderful. He's a great coach. But that kind of just like, I would really seriously though want to give it away as much as I can, and like in secret ways, just see what can happen with it.
Yeah, I think there's a guy. I think there's an influencer or something.
Oh yeah, Mr. Beast.
Mr. Beast that does that kind of stuff. Man, we need to get. I don't think he's a Christian.
You should get him on the podcast.
We need to get him saved and have him do stuff like that for good causes, better causes. Okay. And to my non-Christian audience, I guess what you're saying is you'd like to have. Don't get upset with me. You want to have FU money is what they call that.
Yes.
That's what that is.
Yes.
I know, $1 million, that was like when we were growing up. That's what that was. $1 million. Oh, that's unattainable. Now it's like
pay my mortgage. And,
like we're going to need to make $1 million before we die. That's not that much. Okay. Top 3 favorite movies or books of all time.
Yeah, I got movies right here. Shawshank Redemption, number 1.
Yeah.
The Shawshank, so good.
Yeah.
Number 2, The Goonies. It's like a throwback to the childhood.
Yes.
I probably have most of that movie memorized.
Yeah.
And then, sadly, I still get teared up at the end of this movie. Major League.
You get teared up at the end.
Oh yeah. When they win, he's like, the Indians win it. Bob Uecker's going crazy. The team's all up there. He's great. So many great one-liners. So many. Just incredible. And I mean, honestly, it was like Major League or The Natural. I don't know if you've seen that. Robert Redford. It's another great baseball movie. Just some great scenes. It's hard to get past the one-liners that you get out of Major League.
Yeah, it's filled with them. It really is. Right. Holy cow.
You know how many times you could just be like, up your butt, Joe Boo, or something like that.
Yeah, me and a buddy used to do that at work all the time.
Or like,
you trying to say Jesus Christ can't hit a curveball? Yeah.
Or
Major League.
When I'm dressed not very appropriately, like, man, I feel like a banker in this. You know, like Ricky.
With the sleeveless tux.
All the time, you just be like, give him the heater.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, wow. I kind of want to watch that now.
It's so great.
It's one of those movies, though, I saw way too early. Like, I didn't understand all the words that I heard, but, like, if you see that movie at, like, 10 years old because you're excited about Little League, you're probably not ready for Major League. Yeah. Okay. Favorite Christian movies, because I put them in a different class, because they've come a long way from, the 10 Commandments and facing the giants. Now they're actually getting really good. You got any favorite Christian movies?
I do. Courageous is one. That's kind of like a Kirk Cameron, or I don't know what company is.
Like Affirm Films or whatever. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. Really just kind of playing about fatherhood. And then The Shack. I don't know if you've seen that, but man, it was really hard. But it really, the way that he describes his faith and the way that he describes like kind of going through pain, and of course like wanting to punish evil, and there's it's kind of about an abusive situation too, so that like really resonated with me. And then I don't know if you can count this really as a Christian movie, but it's the Lord of the Rings. Lord of the Rings movies. Oh, there's so many times. There's just like a line always when Frodo's like, I wish I had never come on, I wish the ring had never come to me. And Gandalf's like, all people who go through tough times wish that, but that's not for us to decide. That kind of like, there's so many just really great, like Jesus alliterations, the illustrations that you're like, wow. Yeah.
Tolkien, he was big into getting C.S. Lewis to come to Jesus. C.S. Lewis was a skeptic, and they had their whole little writing club or whatever, and everyone loves C.S. Lewis. So, yeah, good choices. Very good. Let's see here. Favorite song or like workout pump up song, or you can keep them
Okay,
separate?
I got a couple, right? So favorite song all time, and you're probably going to have to look this up because I doubt you know it. It's one hit wonder. It is Possum Kingdom by the Toadies.
Sounds familiar.
Possum Kingdom by the Toadies.
Sounds familiar.
It's just,
80s, early 90s. What?
Ooh, it's probably like mid 90s, kind of like grunge rock.
Yeah, my brother-in-law was big into that, so that's
Nice.
probably where I heard it.
Nice guitar riffs in it and everything. And then working out, if I'm working out, it's got to be like Metallica, GNR, AC/DC.
Yeah.
Like just like metal.
Okay.
Kind of like that 80s, 90s metal.
All right. I'm going to throw a new, it's not new. They've been around since we were younger, I guess, but I was never into Christian music. Skillet. You heard of
Oh,
Skillet?
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, man. They
I'm
have
on a
song
big
Monster.
Skillet
Yes. Oh, yes.
Monster
Really
and
great.
Hero.
Yeah.
And I love like Monster, he's talking about like, yeah, this is how bad we can be, folks.
Right.
We're not naturally good. And then Hero, his next popular song, is like the exact opposite of that. Like, we have a hero. His name is Jesus. Check him out. Oh man, yeah, I can relate to those. Good. Okay, dream job and worst job.
Okay, I'm a little bit of a cupcake, and I think my dream job would literally just be working in like a baby, like OB, like baby birthing center, just rocking babies, feeding babies. Oh my gosh, I love babies. Like,
Okay.
we could have had 100 babies. I mean, my wife was like, no, we're not having that many babies. Love babies. And just, I mean, the crying doesn't bother me at all, and I'm somewhat of a baby whisperer. So like
Hidden talent.
yeah, right. It's incredible. And worst job, man.
Don't say your current job. Just so
Oh
you know.
no way.
Okay.
Oh man, actually, I love my job.
Good.
There's so many jobs that like are just so disgusting that I don't know how anybody could do it. But have you ever thought about like the dental hygienist that puts her hands inside people's mouths? You're like, I mean, I know my own mouth grosses me out sometimes, and I brush and floss,
Yep.
And
Yep.
there's people who are like, you sticking your hand in that? That's so gross. Oh, ugh. But like even being a plumber could be rough. I
Yep.
mean, ugh.
Oh yeah, I've thought that same stuff very many times. Anything in the medical field, like unless you're like a model coming in to the hospital or the doctor's office, you have to think most people don't look like that.
Yeah, right.
Most people have
Uh-huh.
nasty stuff going on, and
Yeah,
you want
otherwise
to
they're
help
not coming
them.
to the doctor.
Yeah, that's not cool. Okay, moving on before it gets awkward. First car, worst car.
Oh my gosh, my first car was a full-size van. It was awesome. I loved it. But like it had a short, and so like to turn the radio on, you'd have to like punch the dash really hard.
Okay.
And also it was rear-wheel drive, and so you could just like burn rubber. It was actually the family vehicle that I drove, but it was I got my first non-speeding violation, and they're disturbing the peace with a motor vehicle in this van. It was kind of a hunk of junk. I was like burning it around a corner right in front of a cop. And
What
he
was it?
It was
You
like a full-size Ford Econoline or
Okay,
something.
the full size. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, just big old.
Had a
and
truck motor in it.
right? And
Yeah.
it had holes. It had like a spot for a fourth seat in the back, but they were removed and had rusted through. So exhaust would pour in the vehicle. So like a long car ride, you'd be like, we got to open the windows, guys. We got to open the windows.
You didn't need beer pot. Just
Oh
sit
my
in the
gosh,
back
yeah,
of Dan's
none of
van
that,
and you're
right?
going to get buzzed.
But then the first car I ever bought, that was the worst car. Okay, so the first car I drove was a family van. Then I bought a Fifth Avenue, and that car was, I mean, it had issues. Okay, my wife drove it once. This is before we were dating or anything. It's like one of these cars that like the carburetor was something was messed up on it, and so like it wouldn't idle, like it would die. It would start every time, but you'd have to keep your foot on the gas
Okay.
all the time.
Yeah.
And so to drive it, you'd have to go, gas it up real quick, shift it into whatever gear, and then operate the brake and the gas at the same time. So like when you're slowing down, I'd have to shift it into neutral and then brake with the left foot and still give it some gas on the right, or else it would die. It had
Wow.
a short, like an electrical short, and so it was the brake lights. The brake lights were on all the time, and so it would die. So like when you're driving, you had to like put the fuse back in for the brake lights, or else you'd have no brake lights. And then at the end, and so I had a little box of extra fuses because I would miss them all the time. Oh, but man, that thing got me everywhere for a really long time. It was great. And then finally, it was like finally totaled when a window broke. Like the window, if you tapped the power window down, it would just go all the way down, and then you couldn't get back up. And so then it shattered once somebody dropped the window. Oh, poor thing.
Wow. Yeah, I think I heard of that car. It was called a Buick piece of crap.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Favorite restaurant or fast food?
I'll be honest. Right now, with the 5 kids at home and our lives, our favorite restaurant is anywhere that my wife and I can be alone.
Date night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be fancy. It just has to be quiet enough that we can talk.
Nice. Okay. So kind of sticking with food there. If you're on death row, you get one last meal. What's the last thing you would want?
All right, so I'm thinking a different way in this, right? For my last meal, I would want the largest, like, gourmet 11-course meal because it would take a really long time. You know, and like the Italians are like, oh man, sometimes they eat dinner for like hours. I could be like, okay, give me the big gourmet cooked meal, but we're going to put off this execution for as long as possible.
Stay of execution.
Yeah, right?
Okay.
Like, oh, is he still eating? Like, they're only on the 3rd course, you know? Like, that. Like,
the
oh my
victim's
gosh.
family's here.
Right?
We're ready to
the
get
electric chair's going to run out already. Like, so we got to recharge it.
Okay. All right. Favorite sports teams or athletes? You got any favorite teams?
I do. Cubs, Hawks, and the old school. This is like aging me, but the NFL team, the Houston Oilers.
Yes.
Man, there was nothing like
Warren
Moon,
Moon.
Eddie George, and the run and gun.
Yeah.
Favorite athlete was Barry Sanders.
Oh, man. Yeah.
This guy was incredible.
They got a documentary coming out about him soon. I don't know if you heard about it.
I can't wait to like see footage. Like, I mean, like seeing it was like, no way.
I think it was called Bye Bye Barry or something like that. I heard it somewhere and I wrote it down. I was like, that's supposed to be coming out around Thanksgiving. I was like, I got to see that.
Yeah.
Yeah, he just went. And I still remember he retires and then the next year Detroit goes to the playoffs.
Right. Like, I mean, how.
And then between then and now, they haven't been good at all. Now they're getting good again. But yeah, Barry Sanders was one of a kind. Okay, cartoons from your childhood.
All right, I had 5 sisters, remember? Okay, so I wanted to watch G.I. Joe, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but it would never work like that. We would always vote. Okay, so whenever, it was always went to a vote. Hey, who wants to watch My Little Pony? Well, let's take a vote. I would lose 5-1. So I grew up watching My Little Pony, Care Bear, Rainbow Bright, all those like sissy cartoons I hated.
I watched Care Bears. I'm not gonna lie. I did. The Care Bear stare? Come on.
I would have to wake up like extra early if I wanted to watch anything that, like be the first one up so I could get like a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle episode in before the rest of the crew got up to watch.
Yeah, they're bringing back Saturday morning cartoon. Everyone understands there's some stuff in cartoons nowadays that people don't want their kids to see, but the Daily Wire launched a whole new kids entertainment division called Bent Key, and they said they're bringing back Saturday morning cartoons. Yeah.
It's weird to think that that's such a cultural thing that used to just be like Saturday morning cartoons. Like that's what you did.
That
Saturday
was
morning.
it.
And it was the only time you could see them. And now you're like, you can stream every episode of everything. Like, oh, I just been watched all of the Simpsons or whatever. Yeah, you're watching 30 episodes in a day.
I know, that's crazy. But all right, most embarrassing moment or the dumbest thing you ever did?
Okay, they're kind of both. You ready for this? My cousin, growing up near Tripoli, they had a hog farm, and they had like an in-ground manure pit. Well, a pig got loose, and we were trying to chase it around. I did not realize this is a manure pit, and I just stepped right into it, and I fell into this manure pit up to my neck. It was awful. I had to hold on to a gate. And that was the only thing that kept me from sinking all the way in. Oh my gosh, so embarrassing. And then I
did you throw up?
No, but I was covered in manure. It's like, oh, it's so gross. So my cousin's like, oh my gosh, we're gonna get in so much trouble. So he hides me in the barn and brings out a roll of paper towels to try and clean up the manure. I was like, dude, this is not gonna cut it. It was awful. It was awful. It's terrible.
Oh, I'm kind of sick thinking about it.
Yeah.
Okay. How about what's something you did last summer?
Oh my gosh. Okay, so this last summer, we've had a couple boys living with us, kind of through a foster system, and we just started taking them up to the gym. We've just been lifting, and it's been really great to see. Like, nice. I mean, obviously, I feel really good about myself, like kind of consistently exercising, and the other thing I did was like decided to finally embrace the role that I have fallen into of like kind of community dad. As over the summers, most dads are still working. Not too many people get to have their summers off like teachers do. Yeah. And it's always just kind of been this thing I resented, at the pool or wherever, where it was like, oh, all the kids wanted to come play with the dad who's, I'm there playing with my kids, and I throw them in the pool and, playing catch with them or whatever. And then pretty soon it turns into like, everybody at the pool is over. Like,
Throw me.
Yeah, throw me next, me
Yeah.
next. But I mean, it is kind of fun. Like some of those kids, you can chuck a really long ways. So it was a blast. I mean, I'm like, your parents are okay with me just chucking you in the air? Like, do they know who I am?
Here, sign a waiver just in
exactly.
case.
Like, you might get launched. But it's kind of fun. Embracing that role. Yeah, I
Good.
enjoyed that.
Good. What's one thing you're looking forward to this winter?
Oh my gosh, basketball season is a big hit around our house. Playing, watching live, watching the high school kids play, and getting to watch the Hawks. And
Okay.
it helps. Caitlin Clark's amazing.
Oh, man.
And so then you're like, wow, we want to get to see guys and girls play. But also, I gotta be honest, as a teacher, snow days are the best.
They are
Snow
good.
days are the best because you get to like do everything you wanted as a kid, and you're still like you get the snow day as a teacher.
So
too.
you're just like,
And so I'm like, oh my gosh, let's go sledding. Like, let's go. We gotta, we gotta shovel and stuff first, but like, then it's like, come on. Or you're driving around like, let's do some wheelies in the parking lot. Whatever kind of fun. Snow days are incredible.
wow. Yeah. Except our kids, they don't get it, man. There used to be with the internet and with apps and things, all you had was the scrolling ticker
Oh my
or whatever.
gosh, yeah.
And that you glued. It didn't. Your mom could be out honking the car saying, "I'm taking you. Let's go." No,
Right.
one
You're
more.
waiting. They're
One
almost-
more.
Oh man, if you went
You
to
know?
WAPSI too, it's the end of the alphabet.
Yeah.
So you're like,
Yeah.
and you're like, okay, it's Washington. Okay, we're nice. Come on.
What? Jessup canceled and we didn't? Those sissies.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I remember
Yeah.
watching the schools roll across the bottom.
They don't get it.
Now it's a text alert. You don't even have to wake up early to find out if
yeah. You don't even have to check your phone. If your phone goes off, like you'll just know. Yep, that means they canceled school. I'm not even gonna look. And then it was me like texting my kids at like 7 a.m. or something.
You still have school. Wake up.
Yeah. All right. These ones are a little more serious. Number one problem, in your opinion, that we face today.
I kind of think that most problems we have in our society goes back to the breakdown of the family unit.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to talk more about this too, but like just the nucleus of husband, wife,
Yep.
mom and dad.
Yep. Yes,
is the
we will
biggest
get into
problem.
that. Absolutely. That's up there. Number one thing we have going for us.
To beat a dead horse, like God is in control. I think that is the biggest thing, like that he's not surprised by anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like wherever politically or whatever your biggest like worry about like World War and everything's like God is in control of all of this. None of it is going to surprise him.
Yeah.
And he will still reign over all.
Absolutely.
Like, through it all.
Absolutely. Yeah, a lot of people say, man, what's he waiting for? What's he waiting for? And the Bible tells us, man, he's every second he hasn't come back is more time for someone else to accept Jesus and be saved. That's
Right.
it. So we got work to do. All right. Now this one is one I don't know, or I guess you said I actually did meet your wife years ago. She came and shadowed our Awana Club. But most of the wives of guests, they say, leave this question in. Don't you dare throw it out. One thing that you, Dan Cooper, love or appreciate about your spouse.
Well, Bubba, I'd be remiss if I said I could narrow it down to one thing. It's not possible.
That's the right answer.
There's way too many things that I love and appreciate about my wife, about Sarah. And there's like, like the little tiny things, like just, like the way sometimes her eyes sparkle when she smiles or whatever, other thing you got there. But here's the biggest thing, and the reason why I knew I wanted to spend the rest of my life with her is because it's kind of selfish sounding, but I don't think it is. She makes me want to be the best kind of man that I can. So when I am around her and when I am with her, like, she almost like she inspires me to greatness. Like I want to be better for her. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, man, you're going to help me to grow into a wonderful person.
Yeah.
And the thing that I really appreciate about her is like just her absolute pure heart. Like I will sometimes like read negativity into what she says or does, I'll be like, oh, it sounds like, you wanted this. And she's like, oh no, like that. She's just so pure hearted, so kind, like her ability to like think about it's like foreign to me, that she'll be like, hey, you were kind of harsh with so-and-so. I'll be like, I had no idea. Like I totally missed it. And she's like, just always thinking about like the feelings of others. And Yeah.
Oh, that's kind of cool when you meet somebody who doesn't have that bone in their body that we're kind of talking about. That's
Right.
That's rare. Okay, best memory from church.
I think it was being baptized, looking out and seeing my future wife there as an adult, and like knowing like, hey, like I'm signing up for this, like I'm in for the long haul.
And when was that again? Just in case somebody's watching part 2 and they didn't hear part 1 yet.
It was probably right after I graduated from college. Before I started teaching. Yeah.
Never too late.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. It
Very
was
nice.
marvelous.
All right, where are you at in the Bible right now?
Well, kind of a bunch of different spots, right? So like I doing FCA, and the FCA group is in Matthew. We started at 5. We've moved on to 6 now. And there, I think they just finished like the Lord's Prayer, like where you're taught how to pray.
Yep.
That's been kind of cool seeing them like discover like, it's like when you fast, when you pray, and like, hey, Jesus kind of saying like, these are the things that you should still be doing, but don't do it for the sake of others.
Yeah.
Sarah and I have been, doing a devotion together, for, maybe pretty solidly for a year.
Wow.
We had before, but like now it's like, look, every day we get up early. My wife does not like getting up early, but I think she's saying like, this is the only time that we have together.
Yep.
And we had been going through James. I think we're in 1 Peter now. But honestly, I'm the early riser. And so I'm usually up before her. I've been working through Isaiah.
Okay. Nice. Very
kind of
nice.
a little bit all over the place.
Hey, when you're involved in different things, you should be. All right. Have you ever had a moment where you knew God was speaking to you or nudging you or
I think not necessarily like the voice of heaven,
right.
like this is my son whom I am well pleased, but a few moments, like one when I was running a lot, it was like a time that I would just like be able to like just talk.
Sure.
I just talking to God as I run. And there's one moment that like just kind of like things strike you, and I always think that like if this is encouraging, if it matches up with scripture, like it's from God. And so I was running, it was like kind of like mid-March or so, when everything's still kind of dead.
Yep.
And I was looking around, I was like, this is crazy. All this stuff, like, look at this brown and nasty, like it's dead. It is dead. And then if you look close, you could see like there's little green sprouts
little
coming
shoots
back.
of green. Yeah.
And God was like, that's me. That's what I do to you. Okay.
Yeah.
You look at your heart, your soul is dead. Like, and this is, but I'm bringing new life.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's incredible. That is incredible.
No cap.
That's right. Oh, that's right. And then another time, same thing on the trail. It was kind of this odd spot. It was like really kind of in the depth of my depression. And I was like, where am I supposed to go? What am I supposed to do? What, like, I don't know what I'm doing. And this red-tailed hawk came and like perched on a tree, just like right in front of me, hanging over. It was like looking at me. It was like, that's kind of weird. And then I'd get pretty close to it and it would fly ahead down the trail to another like tree branch. And if this happened like 3-4 times, I'd be like, that's so weird. It's like it's showing me the way or something. Like I what's going on? Like, and then it kind of flew off. I couldn't see it anymore. I was like, God, like, what is that all about? And it was like, I just had this thought of like, you think that like, I'm showing you the way. Like this, I go before you. I'm showing you the way. I was like, well, that's weird because now it's gone. Like, I don't know the way. And it was like, yeah, now you know the way.
Yeah.
Right. It was like saying like, you just keep going.
Keep doing it.
You just keep going. And I was like, oh man, the encouragement to keep going on this, on this journey, it was pretty cool just to hear that, like, just keep going.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you know Alive and Running at all? You know what they are, who they're about, and all that stuff?
I mean, I think is that the Dunkerton 5K?
Yeah, it's a 5K, but it's a full-on mental health ministry. So
I know just a little bit about it.
Okay, so Ryan Nesbitt, he's in Jessup now. Him and Troy Belmer, they had a classmate commit suicide when they were in high school, and that has since, and they had issues, PTSD with that pretty much, and they have this ministry now. Ryan's full-on 365 a year now. That's all he does is mental health. And we have the big 5K, and it's the same here in Utah. It's the same thing. He still runs. He'll run that 5K that morning before any of the town gets there, just because it's healthy for him to get out there and run it. And so I think I need to get you involved with that. Our church does like the food and refreshments for that. I long stopped running it because it was just too much, but that's a good thing to be a part of and to direct people to, for sure, the Alive and Running. Okay. Near-death experiences, you got any of those or one of them? Or
Yeah. Okay. So when we were kids, we got in a pretty bad car wreck, and everybody walked away, but like the car flipped multiple times. Everybody in the car, all like I
Really?
think 7. I think my dad stayed home. My sister was just a new driver and was driving and like overcorrected on a curve, and then the family station wagon went like just rolling like a tumbleweed down the road. And when we got out, like I think everybody must have been knocked unconscious, or I don't know what happened, but I mean, I just remember being upside down and pulling everybody out, and I got around to the driver's side and it was crushed to the ground, and I was like, she's dead. Like, my sister, where is she? Well, no, the steering wheel actually had like prevented her from being crushed, and it was kind of cool. And then one time in college we were canoeing, and the Cedar River had flooded. I don't think this was near death, but my wife was with when she was canoeing with us. She is terrified of water, and we just like all the canoes capsized on a submerged tree. Okay, which is not a big deal, but one of the canoes actually sank, like the end cap. They're not supposed to sink. The end cap came off, and so all our stuff was like coolers and food and everything's like floating down the river, and it was great. The only thing we saved from it was a pack of hot dogs. So when like a couple on a jet ski or something was like, "Hey, you guys need a hand?" We're like, yes. We got back and it was like, "There's our cooler," and it was like, "Oh, and we have hot dogs. We can still grill tonight." But
you can survive on hot dogs.
That's
absolutely. Right. All right. If you could delete one thing from the world, what would it be?
Okay, I mean, honestly, I think we briefly talked about this earlier, but like, I feel like the correct answer is sin, just because you can see like its effects. But if I were to like narrow it down a little more, I would say like that pornography causes so much damage.
Yeah,
I would eliminate, delete. I used to not be like a person that was like, you have to make rules about everything, but I feel like it causes so much harm to the innocent and harm to children that are just completely defenseless. I feel like it is maybe the biggest offender of the innocent.
Yeah. And growing up, if you don't have somebody like you or me to tell a younger person that it's not right, they're going to grow up thinking there's no harm in it. Looking at a magazine or watching a movie, there's no harm in it. They need somebody to speak into them and say, "Oh no, you have no idea what you're doing to yourself. You have no idea." One of the big thing that I recently found out that like my daughter has shared with her fiance and his roommates, one of them struggling to keep a girlfriend and things, and she told me a conversation they had was like, how much he looks at pornography, and he's like, "Do you think maybe that is a contributing factor to why you can't keep a girlfriend? That stuff's not real. That's not the mate, the
right.
person God wants for you is not going to be like that or do those things. That's not, and it's just, it's bad. But if you grow up thinking it doesn't hurt anybody, that's just a lie. And you need to pull that off and show them, dude, and that's how Satan works, right? Everything looks good. There is no what do they call it? They call it like a victimless
sin or crime or whatever. Yeah. Well, like that's not really true. And it's like ingesting poison, right? Like viewing pornography, like it changes your brain.
Yep.
It rewires. It can do the same effects as like a drug addict.
Yeah.
It's like the dopamine addiction, not to mention how it affects as a man your view of what a woman should be, of what a relationship should be like. Can you imagine if like your only, I guess, sex education is what you've seen on from a magazine,
movies
or
video
magazine, or
yeah.
whatever. Yeah. It's false.
Yeah.
Right. And sometimes they're paid actors. A lot of times it's not. A lot of times it's somebody being trafficked. I mean, it's like either against their will or. Yeah,
there's a podcast with sex workers on it right now, and it's the only reason I know about it is because the setup of the show. It's called the Whatever Podcast, and it's like a round table with multiple sex workers in various parts of the industry, and then the host always invites at least one conservative or one Christian on the show. And so some of the people that I follow and I pay attention to, like Ruslan KD, he's a Christian immigrant influencer. He went on, I think Candace Owens went on, Lila Rose, the founder of Live Action, the pro-life ministry, she went on, and you let those worldviews clash. and some of them have just, you can tell they've never been told how much better it could be if you walked away from that. They don't think there's anything wrong with it, but it's pretty good thing to check out. Okay, so let's see here. Any hidden talents or something most people don't know about you?
Yeah, this one comes up like oddly a lot, because so I'm a music teacher, and it's like pretty natural that people think like, oh, so you probably can play instruments and do music stuff, which yeah, it's very true. But they're very shocked when I can play a sport of any kind, right? Okay, so like I mean. My kids are pretty athletic, and you will get like, where do they get it from? Like, I couldn't possibly have taught them how to throw a baseball, or
And
like,
it's not just students. It's not just students
right,
that are saying that. You're saying this is adults.
Oh yeah, adults. Like
we are idiots.
We're this summer we're in the weight room and we're lifting, and the somebody stops us, and he's a former teacher, retired, and he's like, man, I don't know if I ever saw that before in my life. I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, you must be the only band director in the state of Iowa lifting weights. Like that it's a exemption of like, well, if you do music, you have to be this big cupcake. Yeah. And I played basketball in a morning league, and I'm not saying that I'm like, like the elite player that everybody's like, ooh, be on my team. But I can hold my own, and I know how to get up and down the floor. And like people are like, I had no idea.
It shocks people.
You could play. And I'm like, what, do you think that all my life I just was like practicing the tuba?
It was all band camp.
Yep,
it was all band camp.
Just all this all the time. So it's kind of funny, especially when, now it's like when the kids' friends, they're like, oh, I could take you, and like, no, you cannot. No, you cannot. So yes, I actually have some athletic skill, despite all evidence to the contrary.
See, what I would say when somebody says there's no other band teacher in Iowa lifting weights right now, I would just say, no, correction. There's no other band teacher in Iowa lifting this much weight right now. They actually can, but maybe not this. Yeah.
Not like this.
That's right. So I got the Riz.
I'm going to have to use that.
Yeah, there you go. But you got to watch out, because it does sneak up on you. Like I've noticed, we do a Thanksgiving Day ever since 2020, when you were told you can't go to your family's thing.
Yeah.
This empty lot next to my house, I paint lines. I get a field done. We do football on Thanksgiving Day while the turkey's smoking. And I've noticed, like, my boys are catching me. Like they are. And it's like, man, like I honestly think this is my last year, maybe. He might pass me this year. One of the boys is going to be on my team, so I don't got to compete against, but one of the other ones is going to be on the other team. And it's just like, I think I'm getting to that point where unless I do something, they're going to be bigger, stronger, faster than me. So maybe I need to get back into running and lifting and stuff.
It is a tough moment.
I don't want that. I don't want that to happen.
Right. Haven't you heard though that a dad is the only one who will be really proud when the kids surpass him?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, like that's a great thing for me. I mean, it's just not happening yet. So, I mean, my son Jack loves playing basketball, and I'll be honest, he has beat me a time or two. And now for me to beat him in a game of 1-on-1, I am going like full out.
Okay.
And it used to be like, I got to take it easy.
You could toy with him. Yeah.
I got to take it easy. I'll just only shoot jump shots. Now, man, it is everything. Yeah. I got to foul him. I mean, rap, like everything. Yeah.
I hear you.
He likes to think, he's like, I got you. I'm better than you. And I'm like, not in the short game. I mean, like if we're playing all day, for sure, right? I don't have the endurance that he's got, but yeah.
If I don't see it yet, but I know my mom, she came up for a football game a couple years ago when my middle boy was in junior high yet, and we played Dyke New Hartford at home, and it was in the rain, and he just played lights out on defense. I mean, he was one of the dads told me, he said JJ was our defense tonight, because they have this stud running back, and it was I mean, I was so proud of him. My mom, who's in town as a guest, walks up to him after the game and says, "You're better than your dad ever was." And right in front of me. And I was like,
that's great.
in 7th grade, Mom. Like, Yeah, I sucked in 7th grade, but give me a little, like, that hurt. But I was like, yeah, he was.
Memory kind of fades those images a little bit. Maybe,
maybe
forgotten the greatness.
Yeah,
that
not
was really
as
on display.
ever, Mom. Jeez, that's bad.
Yeah, it's bound to happen. They're faster than me. I know that. That's for sure, right? Distance, like short distance, there's no, because for a while when I was running such long distances, like they'd be like, you would beat us in the 5K, the 10, the 10 miler.
Yeah.
No, not anymore. Now, like last time I went for a run with my youngest, and he was like, I don't want to run with you anymore. You're too slow. I was like, oh, buddy.
Wow.
Oh, sorry. Jeez. Okay, it just happens. It's like they're getting faster and
All
stronger.
right, so
and
that
fading.
I have to see this next year at the Alive and Running in Dunkerton. I got to see the Cooper family run this 5K.
What'll happen, you'll see all the Cooper kids will be like top finishers, and then Dad will be like, hey, I got beat by the lady in a stroller.
If you guys sign up, I'll get you a shout out after the race.
That's
promise
awesome.
you. That'll be fun. All right, Dan. I understand in the podcasting world, an hour's kind of the sweet spot. Don't go too much over that. So I'd like to, sound like I'm professional and tell the audience what all the pros do is we'll just have to have you back. Really, you're not coming back. We're just going to make a separate episode. But
Welcome back.
But like I said earlier, this world, it's a messed up place. Bad things are going to happen. But you can know for sure about where you're going to be for eternity, and that's with God, and that's through Jesus. He did it all. You don't earn it. Ephesians 2 tells us that. You're saved by grace through faith. It's not of yourself, so no one should be bragging about being able to earn their way to heaven. So if you're sitting in a church somewhere and somebody tells you just you being good enough gets you there, get out of that church. That's not right. Get into the Bible. That's where the answers are. You look to God. He'll show you what is up. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope it encouraged you. Be sure and tune in for the next one with Dan Cooper. Until then, Lord willing, I'll see you on the next one.